Hello, everybody. This is Mr. Collins. Today, we're going to spend some time learning about humidity and clouds. We're covering Learning Target 45 today. I can describe the process of cloud formation and the weather associated with different types of clouds. Some vocab we're covering today is we're going to start with humidity. We're also going to spend some time learning about four major cloud types: cumulus, cirrus, stratus, and cumulonimbus. First of all, what is humidity? Humidity is the measure of the amount of water vapor that is in the air. If I were to look at two different conditions, this red box compared to the yellow box, in the yellow box and red box both, green is representing nitrogen that is in the atmosphere. Remember, our atmosphere is composed of about 78% nitrogen. The red is representing oxygen. In our atmosphere is made of about 21% oxygen. And the blue is representing water vapor. Now, water vapor can change in the atmosphere. In this case, it looks like we have less water vapor. And in this case over here, it looks like we have more water vapor. So which would feel more humid? The yellow box. Now, what is relative humidity? Humidity itself was just how much water vapor is in the air, but relative humidity is how much water vapor is in the air compared to the amount of water vapor that the air could hold at that given temperature. Kind of like having different sized glasses, they can hold different amounts of water. Well, the atmosphere, depending on temperature, can also hold different amounts of water vapor. For example, if we have two different locations, we have a little jungle scene and we have a little Antarctica scene. Which of these locations would most likely feel more humid to you? Probably the jungle scene. Why is that? Well, you see, warm air expands. And when warm air expands, it makes more space for water vapor to be held. Warm air expands and it can hold more water vapor than cold air. If we had a cold temperature, say 10 degrees Celsius, and a certain amount of water vapor, this cold air couldn't hold too much water vapor. But if we had the air warming up, say 20 degrees, as that air expands, now there is more area for water vapor to be held in. And if it gets even warmer, the warmer it gets, the more potential it has to hold moisture. So this is why on warm days, it can end up being a lot more humid than on cold days. Similar to changing the size of glasses will hold different amounts of water, warm air can hold more water vapor. As this warm, humid air starts to rise, clouds are likely to form. So what is a cloud? A cloud is simply liquid water droplets that are floating in the air. How do they form? Well, in order for clouds to form, we need two conditions. First of all, water vapor needs to condense into liquid water droplets. In order for condensation to take place, we need a decrease in temperature. We learned earlier that in our troposphere, temperatures get cooler and cooler. We have to reach a temperature in which condensation officially begins. That temperature has a specific name. We call it the dew point. The dew point is the temperature where condensation occurs. You have probably experienced something like this where you have a glass of water on a warm day and you notice the outside of your glass begins to get some condensation on it. That's because putting ice in your glass led the water vapor to condense as it reached the dew point. In the atmosphere, if we're looking at this graph, which shows temperatures, closer to the surface of the Earth where we have our water vapor, as it starts rising up in the troposphere, it gets colder and colder, and it starts pushing those molecules together as they start to condense. And eventually, once it reaches our dew point, that is where we will have clouds forming. So first of all, we need water vapor to condense on liquid water into liquid water droplets. But something else that we need for clouds to form are these little tiny solid particles called condensation nuclei. Water doesn't condense unless it has a solid to stick onto. So we need a drop in temperature and we need condensation nuclei. Where do we get our condensation nuclei? Well, we get them all over the place. Things like forest fires will bring smoke into the atmosphere. We could have things like volcanic eruptions. We could have stuff like pollution. And we can get these condensation nuclei from things like pollen. We even get condensation nuclei from little bacteria in the atmosphere. Now, this condensation that takes place will develop different types of clouds. We have 10 major cloud types. How we determine what the cloud is all about the altitude, whether they are low-level clouds, mid-level clouds, or high-level clouds. We are not going to focus on all 10 cloud types, though you are certainly encouraged to investigate on your own. We're going to focus on 4 major cloud types. The first one is the cumulus cloud. Cumulus clouds look like fluffy cotton balls in the sky. They are low-level clouds. Cumulus clouds indicate fair or nice weather. Stratus clouds form in layers. When you look outside and see the entire sky and it looks like a light gray or all white or kind of a darker gray, you're probably seeing stratus clouds. The weather that we associate with stratus clouds is overcast, which means it's fully cloudy, and even some light rain is associated with stratus clouds. Third major type of cloud is called the cirrus cloud. Cirrus means curl of hair or little lock of hair in Latin. They're very, very high altitude clouds. They're above 20,000 feet. And the interesting thing about cirrus clouds is the weather that we have with them, it's usually very nice, but cirrus clouds almost always mean that a change is coming in the weather. It's nice today, but it probably won't be in another day or two. A change within 24 hours. We also have a term called nimbo or nimbus, which is a prefix or suffix that's added to other cloud types. Nimbo or nimbus means precipitation is happening. So a stratus cloud, if we add nimbo to the front, it becomes nimbostratus. That means a raining stratus cloud. Or cumulonimbus. Cumulo, we have those fluffy clouds with nimbus on the end, means it's raining. Cumulonimbus clouds, often thought of as storm clouds, kind of look like an anvil shape. Here's a cumulonimbus cloud forming in the atmosphere. They start very low in altitude and they reach very high in altitude. They're heavy rain that falls from them. They sometimes will have snow, like big blizzards. This is where we will get hail falling. It's from cumulonimbus clouds. Sometimes there's lightning or lightning storms associated. In Minnesota, we even get tornadoes from our cumulonimbus clouds. Looking at altitude, starting at ground level, moving up into the atmosphere, our low-level clouds are cumulus. Stratus clouds are low-level clouds as well. And high-altitude clouds are going to be cirrus clouds. When those stratus clouds start to rain, we would call them nimbostratus. And finally, considered a low-level cloud because that's where it begins to form, but covering all the way up to high-altitude clouds are the cumulonimbus clouds. Now it's time to go to your Google Forms and fill out your summary sheet, answering these three questions. Number one, how does temperature relate to relative humidity? Number two, what two things need to happen to make a cloud? And number three, what are the four main types of clouds?